The candidate count for governor is up to 6, with more to come. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Jackie Borchert, reporter for Cleveland.com, Darrell Rowland, public affairs editor for the Columbus Dispatch, Terry Casey, Republican strategist, and Joseph Moss of the Ohio Hispanic Coalition. The race for governor is getting crowded. Now 2 Republicans and 4 Democrats are running to take over for John Kasich. First to the GOP side, Secretary of State Jon Husted made it official this week, releasing a video that was an homage to Donald Trump without mentioning his name.
I'm Jon Husted. As Barack Obama said, folks here cling to our religion and our guns, and there's no doubt my family would firmly fit in Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables, and we're proud of it.
Husted joins Congressman Jim Renacci in the official race. We are still waiting for our possible candidates Mike DeWine and Mary Taylor to formally announce. Terry Casey, Jon Husted is considered level-headed, a moderate. That video was pretty far to the right. Would you agree?
Well, I counted 6 times either guns were shown or he mentioned guns, plus he worked in family values. I mean, clearly this primary, we got a whole year to go. There's going to be, I was going to say long knives, but actually guns out, because he wants to show a difference on guns, because Mike DeWine, when he was a senator, voted for some things that were not exactly as pro-gun as some people in Ohio would like. There's going to be a lot of other issues come out, but it's going to be potentially a heated primary, because Husted and DeWine have millions of dollars already, will raise millions more. Mary Taylor, Renacci have the capability to raise some money. So fasten your seat belts and grab your gun.
And I'm going to skip over the obvious Freudian reference regarding the guns and so on. But I agree with you, Mike. I think maybe we've got the first candidate that is announced not for the Republican Party, but for the Trump Party, whatever that might happen to be. That's what I'm perceiving.
Jim Renacci is a very strong supporter, outwardly supporter of Donald Trump. And
yeah, he's not shied away at all from his support for Donald Trump, and his campaign has aligned very closely with the Trumpian values, or even some of his campaign messages. Right away, his website is Ohio First, I believe, OhioFirst.com. He's picked up operatives that worked on Trump's campaign in Ohio, so he's tried to position himself as the Trump-aligned candidate.
Darrell, but Husted doesn't want to align himself too closely with Donald Trump. He wants to sort of attract the white working class voter, which are profiled heavily in that video. But he doesn't want to be associated with a guy whose approval rating's at 36% right now.
This is going to be the interesting dance we're going to see from all the Republican candidates in the ensuing year. You're betting on, to some extent, on President Trump's popularity a year from now, when voters will go to the polls. And Lord, what we've seen from the first, 110 days or so, it could be anything. The current controversy over the firing of the FBI director and the health care bill debacle, things of that nature, we have miles to go. So yeah, he's certainly trending right now. And you mentioned Congressman Renacci. He's not only in word harkening back to Trump, he also issued a rare attack on Jon Husted shortly after he announced, and that is very atypical, at least for genteel Ohio politics, right, Terry?
Yeah, and the difficulty is, in our polarized society, if in either primary you run too far to the right or too far to the left, after May 8th of next year, you got to put it back together and win for the whole state of Ohio, where there's a lot more middle-class people, middle-of-the-road people who don't want to hear just strong rhetoric on one side or the other.
And I agree with your comment, Mike. I always thought that Husted potentially would be more of a middle-of-the-road guy. I was troubled, and again, understand where I'm coming from, Hispanic community and so on. He was blowing some dog whistles that I was concerned about.
There was not one person of color in that video. There were dozens of people shown. But I went back and I looked, there was not one African American, not one Hispanic face in that video, which usually even Republican candidates who aren't trying to attract the minority vote will at least include them.
You could at least hire somebody that looks that way. But in any event, I know it's tongue-in-cheek, but notwithstanding that, I think the whole reference to the basket of deplorables, I still haven't forgotten that reference refers to sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, and white supremacist. Is that what Husted really wants to associate himself with? Or does he think that that's just a meme that has transcended the original comment?
Husted got hit also after his announcement in the Cincinnati Enquirer. They looked at his plan because he's kind of saying, I'm running the Secretary of State's office for free with no tax money. But of course, that really isn't true because they've had overinflated business filing fees and they're using that now. So it sounds good in the campaign ad, but it kind of has been unmasked by the Enquirer.
Jackie, will all four of these big candidates run? Renacci, Husted, Taylor, and DeWine.
Well, I mean, the question is, will they finish? I think, and
Make
who
it to the
will
primary.
finish? I don't think we'll have a four-way primary. I think that may be too much resources to divide, and it could get ugly. Like Daryl was saying, that statement from Renacci right away. I think this primary will be a little bit different than the last couple that we've seen.
I'm betting on that all four will stay in. And I was up in northeastern Ohio earlier this week, and I won't on air explain the reasons why, but each has different reasons, and they'll be in it, I think, to go through the primary.
I mean, any chance, because I doubt any of those four candidates want to be Secretary of State or Auditor or Attorney General, one of those. But Daryl, any chance that one of them looks at Senate if Josh Mandel sort of slips in the polls at all?
It's hard to fathom. Obviously, Mike DeWine has been a U.S. Senator. I don't know. It's almost like they are all at their logical point in their careers, their respective careers, where this is the logical next step. But there's only room for one of them.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
On the Democrat side, Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley becomes the fourth candidate and the third woman to join the race. Whaley is the mayor of Dayton. She launched her campaign with a darker video claiming Republicans at the State House are not listening to ordinary Ohioans.
From a community where the factories moved out and heroin moved in, they don't see you. But I see you. I see you because I know firsthand the challenges facing Ohio.
Joe Mas, this started with just a video about a minute and a half long of black and white pictures of empty factories, and it was just very dark and dismal. Is Ohio in that bad a shape?
Well, it looked like a Republican ad to me, but notwithstanding that, I don't know Nan Whaley. I don't know. I do not think Ohio is in that bad a shape. I think Ohio, under the leadership of the governor, I think has made some mistakes with respect to taxation, and that those are actually not that difficult to solve.
But to win, she's got to say, we would do a better job than the Republicans.
You always have to say that you're going to do a better job, and she may very well do a better job. What I do like is that I'm seeing younger Democratic candidates, because one thing that obviously benefits my friend Terry Casey here is that the bullpen for the Republican Party is deeper and is more experienced than that for the Democratic Party. So I'm delighted to see the younger candidates coming up, and I think we're going to see some more younger candidates.
And Joe, I'm going to say some positive things. What I hear from people in Dayton, she's very bright, political, hardworking. Her big problem is going from mayor of Dayton, and if you've never been in the State House as a state rep or a cabinet official or some other office holder, it's awfully hard to run for an office like governor, because if you don't know the intricacies of the State House, and some guy named Fitzgerald ran into those problems, it's harder to run for governor, because if you just haven't been there, you haven't dealt with the state budget, it's a lot tougher.
Why not? Is she considered running for another statewide office, auditor, secretary of state? I don't know if she's an attorney, attorney general, any of those.
She's not.
She's not an attorney, so it'd have to be the auditor or secretary of state. Jackie, any talk that she would consider those first?
No, and I think because her personality and her experience seems well suited for the executive role more than the side acts, if you will. And I think Terry said the lack of State House experience is maybe a negative for her. I think it also works as a positive. Running against. Looking at the rest of the field, she has that outsider position. I think her point about a disconnect between cities and the State House and state government in Columbus, I think that will resonate throughout the state. That'll be effective up in Northwest Ohio as well as Northeast Ohio.
Daryl, 3 women in this race. Does that say anything?
Well, 3 in the Democratic race,
Yeah,
and Mary Taylor on the
possibly
Republican
yeah.
side as well. I'm sure. that says a lot. We've not really seen this in Ohio history before. I'm not sure we've seen, certainly in recent times, we're going to have basically four very credible candidates on each side, maybe for a long time. I think there's two things about the Democratic side. One, Joe mentioned about the Mayor Whaley's ad being a little bit darker. We're in this transition phase. We talk about the difficulties for Republicans. Now the Democrats, they just spent a year saying how good Ohio's economy was, how Barack Obama's had, turned things around. Well, now we're running on John Kasich's record. So, okay, now we're going to emphasize things like empty factories. We had the #1 overdose death total in the country, things of that nature. The other thing is, unlike the Republicans, the Democrats, I think, they are not at logical, I got to run for governor now at this point in my career. You could see perhaps any of them moving down to some of those lesser slots or becoming a running mate. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all sorts out.
The other two women, Connie Pillich and Congresswoman Betty Sutton, also Joe Schiavone, the Senate Minority Leader of the other Democrats running for governor at this point.
And there is this little thing called name ID. Mike DeWine's been on the statewide ballot 7 times, Mary Taylor 3, John Houston twice. And if your big race was mayor of Dayton and you got a little over 9,000 votes, it's a big leap from Dayton, where they have a city manager. The mayor doesn't actually run the city. So Ohio is still, whoever the candidate is, it's a big, diverse state, lots of media markets.
I agree, and I think it's going to be tough, and I think there has to be some sort of a change in what's going on, perhaps influenced by what's going on at the national level. That may change the dialogue at the state level.
Are Democrats still hoping that Richard Cordray gets in?
Yes, absolutely. And ironically, he's more likely to get in if the litigation against his agency succeeds with respect to.
And he's saying, why couldn't Donald Trump fire me?
Fire me, exactly.
And get me all this publicity.
The night is still young, as they would say.
The night is young.
So, any other Democrats out there, or is 5 the limit for the race? I mean, the former mayor of Youngstown.
The more numbers that are on there, the fewer likely candidates.
The mayor of Cincinnati would like to run, but he had a little problem in his primary down there that you talked about previously in one of the earlier shows.
He finished second. He still qualifies for the general,
but he's got an uphill battle to win down there.
And Mayor Whaley is running unopposed, so
right. That makes it easier.
Yeah. All right. With all that is going on in Washington, it seems so long ago that House Republicans just last week voted to gut the Affordable Care Act, but supporters of Obamacare don't want voters to forget who supported the repeal. One liberal group is targeting Ohio Republicans like Congressman Pat Tiberi for their support of the GOP health care bill.
I love Grandma as much as 100 Bricks Way. She had cancer one day. It was very serious.
I have an aggressive stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It's metastasized to brain and liver.
It was scary when she was sick. I never want to leave my grandma.
The Affordable Care Act saved my life. Congressman Tiberi just voted to take away health care from over 600,000 Ohioans like me. Call Congressman Tiberi and ask why he stripped our coverage.
Darrell Rowland, the election is 18 months away. The vote's already taken place that he's voted for. What's the purpose of that ad?
Bloody them early and often. They obviously have the money to do this. Similar ads aired against Jim Renacci up in Northeast Ohio, Steve Shabbat down in Cincinnati. Hey, this is how it is. I mean, okay, 18 months, that's tomorrow in the view of some of these folks. Let's go at it. But you look at some of the new polling, just some new numbers out just a few hours before we're recording this. The Quinnipiac poll talks about the new plan, as we said, passed last week, seems like last month. 21% of Americans favor that. And if you look at those who favor strongly versus those who disfavor or disapprove strongly, 9% favor that plan strongly, 46% disapprove strongly. So that's over a 5-to-1 margin. There's a huge gap there. For years, the past several cycles, Republicans have ran on the unpopularity of Obamacare, but now to voters, if you believe the polls, Obamacare is not looking so bad now because the alternatives are worse.
It's just like in television or in radio, people don't say they love a show until you take it off the air. Is it the exact same thing going on here?
That's exactly it. I was just looking at some polling today that suggested that people like liberal ideas when there's not a liberal in charge, and they seem to want that when a conservative is in charge, and vice versa. It kind of ebbs and flows. And I think this isn't a done deal. It still has to go through the Senate and the conference committee, and maybe other challenges after that. So I think these ads also serve a dual purpose of maybe warning the Senate, this could be coming for you too if you continue down this road.
And the real problem in America is if you did a poll and said, would you like to have free health care, nearly free health care, everybody'd say they're for that. The problem is, how do you pay for it? Because whether it's the Republican plan just passed or the previous Obamacare, neither does anything to control soaring health care costs. And that's really the driver and the big problem of it. And the other good news is about 90% of the people, either through their work, Medicare or Medicaid, have health insurance. The question is, how do we cover, and most importantly, who pays for the 10% that doesn't have the coverage?
I think, once again, I think Terry and I are in almost complete agreement
That's
on
scary.
here. Yeah. It's scary, but I always thought that the Affordable Care Act wasn't an perfect act, but it was something you had to open the door. And of course, the anticipation is that the Republicans would come on board later on and try to fix it. And we saw lots and lots of problems. I was a little more cynical. I thought that, in fact, it was imperfect in order for the American people to clamor for single-payer plan, to expand Medicare. But once, and in this, Republican pundits have been correct since the 1980s, once you give the American people an entitlement, really hard to take it away. And that's what we're going to see in the Senate. And that's the reason for the ads.
Well, sure. The senators, including Ohio's Rob Portman, they've talked about they're just going to start with a blank piece of paper. The heck with that, that plan that they celebrated in the Rose Garden. For what? It's going away, even with the fellow Republicans in the Senate.
Is there any way, Jack? Is there any way that blank piece of paper, that new plan, will be truly bipartisan and it'll get the Democrats to go on it? Because that wouldn't pass the House, right? It might go through the Senate, but it's surely not going to pass the House.
Are we living in fantasy land?
I mean, it's a closer vote in the Senate, and so there is some incentive to do that. But I politically, I don't think so. And as to starting with a blank sheet of paper, if that's the version that gets passed, I think that this House vote still will come back to haunt them 18 months from now. I mean, we saw that back with the 2009 cap and trade bill with the Democrats.
Are the senators that interested in giving Donald Trump another victory?
I don't know. Terry, turning to the politics, will Tiberi's vote mean that he gets a credible challenger in the primary and or the general in 2018?
Probably not, because when he's sitting there with $6 million and when he works the district the way he does, and if anyone's dealt with Pat, they know that he's knowledgeable and on top of the issues. I just don't see it really happening because in general he's done a good job. He works hard. He's got money. It's tough to beat somebody in that situation.
Joe, are there Democrats eyeing that side?
I reserve that up to my closing comments. Yes, the answer is yes.
You think there would be a credible challenge?
I think there will be at least two.
To Stivers and to Tiberi?
To Tiberi.
Yeah.
I'm less on top of things on Stivers' side.
But those districts are still, they're not quite as heavily gerrymandered as others, but they still definitely lean Republican.
Yeah. Well, yeah, lean fairly strongly. Yeah. The Center for Politics, the crystal ball at the University of Virginia runs, changed a lot of districts' ratings across the country. All that changed in Ohio was making Steve Shabbat like 1 degree less certain on the Republican side. Nothing else changed. The districts are just so safe. And Democrats, frankly, haven't mounted much of a challenge in these districts where they could potentially succeed.
And for Pat Tiberi, the heart of his district's Delaware County, and it keeps growing bigger and bigger. And he's very responsive, I think, to his constituents and votes the way they're interested. If you look at Delaware County, part of Licking, the other counties that are there.
Okay, we shall see. William Lager's presence certainly is felt at the State House. He gives millions of dollars to Republican candidates, but this week the businessman and founder of ECOT made a rare public appearance at a State House rally to support his online charter school. The state has ordered ECOT to return $60 million because it could not prove students were actively enrolled. Lager and ECOT supporters say the move by the state puts their school at risk. He says the school provides a valuable alternative.
There is not a family in Ohio who does not have a child, who does not have a stepchild, a neighbor, a friend of a neighbor, or family member who isn't crying for an education and wants it other than a traditional public school. That's what ECOT is.
Just 2 days after the rally, a hearing officer ordered ECOT to pay that $60 million. ECOT continues to challenge that order and the rule changes in court. Jackie Borchard, this is going to be handled by hearing officers and judges at this point. What was the point of the rally?
Well, I think to say that they're not going away. They're not going away quietly. There was this rally generated a lot of criticism before it even took place, in that there was emails circulated from school leaders telling teachers that they needed to be there, that it was mandatory, and then that later was calmed down and retracted and said, no, you don't need to come. And it's been an ongoing debate, and it is interesting that just 2 days after that rally, we get the administrative hearing officer weighing in, but that's not the end of it. It's still working its way through the courts. It was ECOT took all available avenues to try and challenge this. One of those was through the administrative officer, and that ruling, coming from the Department of Education, was not really a surprise, I think, to anybody.
But there's an appeal pending in state court.
Right, so that was one avenue, and then the court is separate. But the administrative hearing officer did heavily quote the previous court opinions that have ruled against ECOT.
And that was a crushing, that wasn't even close to an even decision. That was crushing against ECOT. Again, maybe it's the state hearing officer on the states taking the state side. So on one hand, maybe it's no surprise. On the other hand, I don't think everyone was expecting them just to parrot the arguments of the state's lawyers.
But the judges haven't been kind to ECOT either.
They
ECOT's
haven't not won anything yet.
Right,
so far.
right.
And ECOT's got the best law firm in Columbus that's represented the Dispatch and a few other prominent people, and they've struck out in the courts, struck out this administrative law, and there's a governor sitting there who wants accountability by these charter schools. He's for charter schools, but he wants to make sure they're performing. And the way ECOT was operating, where it's very unclear whether the students were really performing, showing up, what they were doing, is a big problem that's hard to explain away.
Where were schools like this when I was going to a high school? What I don't understand is, how did the system get set up in the first place that students can claim to be going to school online, but there are no checks on that? Who set this up? It makes no sense. If somebody had asked me when it was set up, certainly there must be some sort of checks and balances. But what happened?
This was an agreement with the state and the Department of Education when ECOT was initially founded. It was a bit of a compromise at the time, where ECOT would be essentially, from that point on, just sort of sign a paper verifying that, we really do have this many kids. Now what the state wants is, hey, we want some proof that those kids are actually online. Just like we take attendance in brick and mortar classrooms and actually count kids, we need to do at least a virtual count to see, because since the state pays on a per pupil basis, we need to make sure the number of pupils is right.
And the technology certainly allows for that. Otherwise, you have the fox guarding the hen house.
So, Jackie, what's the end game here? If they lose $60 million, they can't stay in business. That's just 1 year. And they lose that revenue going forward, I assume. And
I haven't looked at ECOT's financials, but they're not a poor company. They're for profit. They're able to. I don't know. $60 million is a lot of money, but I think going forward that hurts them if that becomes the rule as well. Because if they did it 1 year, they're also going to be audited again every year because of the bad audit. But I think the larger impact of that is the ripple effect it has on the other charter schools and on charter school reform at the State House. Like Terry was saying, Governor Kasich has made that a priority to kind of put some more restrictions in place and make sure that we're keeping an eye on the charters. And I think that would only increase with a negative outcome for ECOT.
All right, we're going to get to our final off-the-record parting shots. Joe Maas, we'll start with you.
Well, and I want to take up where we left off on the issue of candidates, at least on the 12th Congressional T-Berries. I do predict that fairly soon we're going to have the announcement on 2 candidates, and at least one of them is going to be under the age of 40.
and well known?
To me,
All right, Terry.
Talking about health care, there's a little place in Columbus called OSU Medical Center. They basically fired their CEO this week, though he said he did nothing wrong. Now the problem for Dr. Michael Drake, how do you get somebody good nationally who can take Ohio State where Mr. Wexter and the community wants it to go? And if Dr. Drake can't turn it around, he might be the next one under the pressure of an unhealthy situation.
Daryl.
We talk about how the Democratic candidates for governor have much less name recognition than those on the Republican side. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to gain attention. Just this past week, we had Mayor Whaley's video. Joe Schiavone, the state senator, had a video. A couple hours before we were taping this show, former Representative Connie Pillich said, if Trump takes us to war when I'm governor and this Russian thing isn't settled, she will issue an emergency order and Ohio troops will not serve. Now, whether that would ever hold up in court, I don't know, but that's where our campaign is already.
And Jackie.
I just want to put a plug in for a former colleague's Mother's Day story running this weekend. Lynn Holsey has a story in the Dayton Daily News about the women at the Women's Reformatory having children in the nursery and what it's like to have a child in prison.
It's an excellent story. Bernie Sanders and John Kasich apparently are going to go on CNN for a town meeting. I don't know what they'll say, what they'll agree on, disagree on, but I can guarantee you, because both men like to talk with their hands, there'll be a lot of gesturing. So Anderson Cooper, whoever's moderating it, look out. That's Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook, Twitter, and our website, WOSU.org. I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.